But I'm proud to be the most pro-union president in American history. I promised you I would be. But what I'm really proud about is being reelected the most pro-union president in history.
Guys, Joe Biden isn't the most pro-labor union president in history. Pro-union, pro-labor, pro-union president in history. Nobody in this current Democratic Party is really proven to be the most pro-union, pro-labor person in history. He broke a strike. It's that simple. We're going to go through a series of interviews showing exactly why that's BS. And this is mostly going to be centered around our dear sister Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because she appears to be completely just vanilla now. I don't see any fight. She seems to just have this real go along and get along spirit, and I don't want to really ruffle any feathers, and I'm just doing what I'm told, and that's what I like. I really don't understand it. It's sad. I'm not gonna lie. It's sad to watch her decline into just being a regular Democrat. But you know what? I guess this is what happens when people just kind of lean into being a politician. Long story short, let's get into it. I started off with that clip because I wanted you guys to really, every time Joe Biden says one of these grandiose things on stage with a speech, he just does the opposite. Like that black people got me to the vote thing, when he said the African American community want me to vote, I just anyways. Okay, moving on. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is just a regular old Democrat now. AOC recent appearance on Pod Save America had, for me, the feeling of final disappointment, the kind that's a little sad that brings a set of quixotic hopes to a close. AOC appeared on the popular Crooked Media show to announce her endorsement of Joe Biden for president in the 2024 election. To deliver that particular endorsement while appearing on that particular podcast where former Obama administration staffers defined the limits of acceptable left-of-center opinion was to send a very deliberate message. It was AOC's last kiss-off to the radicals who had supported her, voted for her, donated to her campaign, and made her unusually famous in American politics. The beneficiary of a wholly unique cult of personality that is now starting to come undone. I don't really read any lies there. At the end of the day, AOC she's ridden the progressive coattails to stardom, wore that eat the rich dress, which is kind of hilarious since she's a rich person supporting the status quo. Okay. It's just, she's just milquetoast, and just, I don't see how anybody really respects her anymore. Moving on. This is particularly interesting. I can't believe this is who she's become. It's kind of sad.
The squad has been billed as a block of votes that hold the Democratic caucus and the Biden administration accountable, and to create that boundary. At one point, you had said, and this I think was a quote, in any other country, Joe Biden and I would not be in the same party, which I think is a commentary on the way our country's politics are set up. However, you, for instance, have voted not.
That's clearly not true.
91% of the time with the Biden administration.
There we go.
Includes votes on the rail workers strike,
Yep.
The spending, I think it was $40 billion on the Ukraine war,
Yep.
billions of dollars to microchip companies that have been criticized for using the cash to do buybacks. You and a group of progressives also didn't withhold your vote on the American Rescue Plan when the Biden administration kind of abandoned the minimum wage. So the question is, how can you hold your party accountable or create that boundary with the Biden administration when you and progressives in the Congress are oftentimes voting for what the party leadership wants and not, or very rarely, sometimes, but rarely holding out your vote when the party really, really needs it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what she's going to say to this, really. I really don't know what she could possibly say. I didn't watch this in a really long time. This is from like 7 months ago. And I think that article is talking about a Pod Save America interview she did, like, I think last week or something like that. But nonetheless, super interesting that he brought up all the things that we are flaming her for right now. And let's just see how she answers, guys. Let's see what BS she kind of.
So, I want to address kind of two parts of that question. I'll get to some of those specific votes, but I do want to emphasize that, as you mentioned, there are times where we do break with the party. For example, on Build Back Better, that was a year-long war.
No, for sure. And so what? You didn't pass Build Back Better.
For sure.
That we had inside our party. And listen, there were moments where in the lead up to that Build Back Better and bipartisan infrastructure vote, where the President of the United States was on the speakerphone with us saying, you need to do this. And we said, how are you going to the pretense that the president had on this is vote for Biff and trust me, I will get Build Back Better across the line. And right there with us, facing the president, we're saying respectfully, this is not about, and the framing here to give a window into how the internal politics of the party works is, do you trust us or not? Do you trust this leadership? And you have to tell this person, right? This is the, speak.
Guys, she's smiling. She's talking about, do you trust this leadership? She's talking about how she's put on the person. People voted you in because you talked about supporting Palestine. People voted you in because you wanted to, you want to fight for the $15 minimum wage. People voted you in because you were going to bring light to mass incarceration and Social Security and all the things that progressive people care about. Like, what are you talking about? They're putting you on the spot and trying to tell you, do you trust us? No! Your constituents are trying to tell you guys, we don't trust them. Why can't you convey this message?
Speaker Pelosi, President of the United States, the Vice President, you have members of the cabinet.
Oh my God.
And they use kind of like a collective environment. This is not a private conversation. It's almost like an invitation to try to say in front of everybody, and that challenge, and to stand up to the speaker and to the president and say, this is not a matter of trust at all. This is a matter of votes. And it's not that I don't trust you, it's that I don't trust Joe Manchin. And I don't know if I trust anybody to be able to bring consistency out of a person who does not have any. But all of that is to say is that I think that some of these votes also speak to that progressive infrastructure that we're talking about. When it comes to the rail vote, for example.
Guys, what the hell was she talking about? What was she talking about? And now she's going to talk about the rail vote, and we'll get into that a little bit deeper in a moment. But like, all I heard was a word salad and her defending the fact that she doesn't know how to lead. And this is why I did a whole podcast on these people being completely spineless. Like, so they're asking you to stand up. They're putting you on the spot to stand up to them. Stand up to them. Marjorie Taylor Greene ain't got no problem doing that. Josh Hawley ain't got no problem doing that. All these psycho crazy Republicans fighting for the wrong thing ain't got no problem doing that. So why can't y'all just speak up?
We worked.
Now she's gonna BS us or try to BS us about the railroad strike. Listen,
very closely with all elements of the rail workers, of rail workers, both not just the Teamsters, not just some of the other formal unions, but also those members of the unions that were rebelling against the initial round of these agreements.
And now listen to what she just said. She's talking about everybody, even the rank and file and everybody else rebelling against it. We're going to hear from 3 people specifically.
And it was in tandem with these organizations. Like when you look at, for example, RWU, and some of those folks that were leading the fight on opposing that initial agreement to a terrible contract, those were the folks that we were working with in developing our organizing strategy around this. And it was in following, the actual rail workers lead, both on both camps. This was not just about choosing traditional union leadership, but also that rank and file grassroots leadership, that we tried to determine our strategy, that we worked with Senator Sanders and we worked with many others saying, how do you all want us to proceed? And the initial push was to rubber stamp this agreement with no attempt at getting paid leave. And procedurally, what we were asked to do by that rank and file is to get us a paid leave vote. That was the determination. That was the organizing leading up to that vote. That was the request that was made of me, and that is what I agreed to deliver on. Now, I think on the other end of that, there is a difference between this kind of like spontaneous digital response versus the actual organizing rooms and people that are directly impacted.
Okay, first of all, let's just remember, guys, there were 2 bills to vote on, one for paid leave and one to break a strike. She voted for some BS paid leave that the workers didn't want, but she also voted that if they ever strike again, the corporations can now sue them, effectively dissolving the strike. Dissolving the union. That's what she did. This is why everybody's mad at her. And now she's going to proceed to talk about some spontaneous digital response, but ain't nobody trying to listen to that BS because she's only talking about stuff that she don't like because people are calling her out. Clown.
Months in the making. And so we had been in communication with workers for months about how do we want to see this unfold? And the number one thing that we had that emerged from those conversations is that the thing that was absolutely most important is paid leave, securing that paid leave. And also tactically, what we are materially capable of. I understand that theoretically, in talking about the strike, like I understand why someone would have that position, but we need to be honest with ourselves about what something like a wildcat strike takes. And are we ready for that? Are the seeds sown for that? Sometimes they are. We've seen that with the teachers' unions and what happened in West Virginia and what's happened in Los Angeles. But sometimes a workforce may not be prepared for that. And if a movement isn't, then we have to decide what other tactics we're going to use.
I want to turn to just a couple of issues real quick.
Yeah, cut out their ability to strike. Cut out their ability to strike, I guess. Right? Entirely. We can't have the railroad unions and truckers doing a wildcat strike because that's going to affect the economy on a level that the government don't want to take accountability for. No? But, again, let's just say she operating in good faith, right? I would particularly like to hear from people who are actually in the union. No, this is from, first of all, shout out to the Lever. They do a lot of good stuff. I like to look at their podcast from time to time. But this is the Sabby Sabs podcast. She does amazing work interviewing all these different type of people. Now we don't agree on everything, but she is a well of information, and a lot of it is good information. Check her out if you get a shot. I'll put the link in the description. Let's go ahead and get rid of that, and let's hit play.
Commentator here, and I want you to hear what he had to say as well.
You voted for President Biden, but now you say you feel like he's turned his back on you. Why?
Well, what we've seen with this great rail strike of 22 that has ended very undramatically is we've seen unionized workers' right to bargain collectively get trampled on. Their voice has not been heard. They voted against a contract. We have a pro-labor president who loves to, pat himself on the back for that. And when the going got tough, he turned his back on the people he's supposed to be looking out for.
And when this bill that is now going to go to President Biden pass the House, it had a separate measure that actually had 7 paid sick days for you and your colleagues. That did not make it through the Senate. They voted against it. Are you asking President Biden not to sign this bill?
It's a good question. You don't go against what your members vote for. So shout out to Jamal Brown for getting that bill going and looking out for us. But the sick days was more of a distraction. The main attraction here is Joe Biden forced a contract on our unionized workers who voted against it.
So this piece,
real simple. You see what I'm saying? Shout out to Sabby Sabs. She's interviewing people from the actual Rail Workers United. People that AOC says she spoke to. This is real tangible stuff that they said that they wanted, that Joe Biden and the rest of these Democrats, the rest of these Democrats voted down, guys.
piece right here, this is the piece some people have questions about, that Biden forced a contract on the union workers that did not want it. This is the piece I think some people are confused by, because what I've been hearing is that the union leaders were the ones that made the agreement, but he's saying that the workers did not want it. And I want to hear from both of you about that, your opinion about that.
Well, the vast majority of organized labor on the unions, of which there are 12 in our bargaining coalition, 55% voted these contracts down. None of the unions who voted it up did it by the margins.
See, 55% voted it down.
By great margins. For example, the union I was in, it was 53.5% for the contract.
And the people that did want to vote for it, there wasn't huge support for those from the people that did want to support it.
Contract. Almost half, a little over half, and almost half voted no. So there's a lot of sentiment against this contract either way, and democratically we voted it down in our unions. And we have every right, as other people have said, we have every right to insist that any vote that we carry out in our unions, which we fought to get, that vote be respected. It means nothing to vote in a union. It means nothing to have a union if if what we can see in the future is direct government intervention, squarely on the side of the carriers, as it has historically every time it's intervened in any labor dispute. It has sided on the side of the employers. We're not looking for help in that manner from the government. We're looking to wage our own fight and the government to get out of the way. And I agree with the speaker on CNN that if Biden had been in fact a pro-labor president, he would have vetoed that bill because it was not good for labor, and labor voted and spoke, and he did it anyway.
Well said.
Like, I know a lot of people don't necessarily care about this kind of stuff, but this is exactly why we need the Democrats to have more of a backbone. This is exactly why we need AOC and Jamal Bowman and Rashida Tlaib and all the rest of Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan. Like, we need y'all to have a bigger fight. Fight harder, fight stronger. Like, this ain't enough. And to come on to places like the Lever and Pod Save America and just carry water and just do the it's ugly to watch, man. Because these people look like they're suffering. These people look like they have real issues that they deal with. And she's up there on this interview just like laughing and ha 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 and all this other crap as if like these people, they need 6 days worth of strike. Like, they need to be able to strike so they can collectively bargain for the things that they actually need. 2 weeks paid leave. Actual opportunities to get flexibility on their schedule. Safety concerns. A big part of what they were arguing for was safety concerns. And the stuff that happened in Palestine, Ohio, that could have been avoided when these people they could have been fighting for more safety restrictions and regulations. Let's watch a little more.
But it's not going to change because they're going to keep doing it. The greed, the unconscionable greed of these railroads is destroying not only our lives, but the actual railroads themselves, as Matt so eloquently already spoke to. So the core issue is not going away. It's not fading. We will continue to get victimized as workers who take off any time for illness, fatigue, just mental health, whatever. They'll continue to get victimized by the railroads. They'll get terminated. The problems will be exacerbated. And the deep anger that exists amongst the ranks of labor working on the railroad will not fade away until the issues are addressed. That's what we have to, I think, really look at. That's the question. How are we going to come down in a big and broad way on the side of rail labor to keep this raised and to decisively win it in the short and long term, I'm speaking.
That's right.
We need to get organized, y'all. Organized. Let's organize around these union workers.
And go ahead, Matt.
Thank you. I can't really speak to the actions of our union leadership because I wasn't there. I don't know what took place, but what I can tell you is that we've gotten used to hearing from our leadership, having deals put before us and being told, well, you better accept this because this is the best that we're going to do. This goes back to the Railway Labor Act that we work under, and a lot of people don't understand because most of the unionized workforce works under the National Labor Relations Act. The difference between the two. The Railway Labor Act was written to prevent strikes. And back at the time that the rail carriers were largely economically deregulated to save them from bankruptcy in 1980, there were, by my count, 45 Class 1 railroads in this country. And Class 1 refers to the size of a rail carrier based on their gross revenue annually. Now we're down to 7, and that number is likely to drop to 6. As the Surface Transportation Board is poised to approve another merger. And what has happened here is these companies have gotten so big through mergers and acquisitions, they're nationalized now. There was a time where if there was a dispute between the unions and the railroads and you struck a carrier, it was not a big deal because there was other routes that freight could take. Now these carriers have gotten so big and there's so few of them now, and they bind together and bargain as a unit that they've used the Railway Labor Act to shield themselves from strikes. And so that act hamstrings us when it comes to seeking self-help. We can't strike, and therefore we become a victim of a game of politics. Who's in the White House? Who controls Congress? And are they likely to give us a good deal or not? And
so, guys, tell me what you think. These guys need our help. They need our support. Call your senators, call your congressmen. Tell them to get behind the Rail Workers United. Let's try to hold people accountable. The fact of the matter is working class people need help. Veterans need our help. There's real families in this country that could use serious support from our state and local government, and we're not holding them accountable. So stuff like this has happened to people who really need our support, who are fighting for just decent wages and dignity to live, and these are the people that make the country run. If anything, our railroad workers should be taken care of. Tell me what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for listening. Help a brother get to 50 subscribers. We're getting there, guys. Appreciate you. It's been a good night. More genius art from my child, by the way. Let's just point that out. This kid is, I don't, honestly, I really don't even know. Like, cause this, I'm not joking, guys. This is really good. Tell me I'm lying. Put it in the comments. Daryl, you're lying. This art is just trash. Your son is a 3-year-old nut job. He can't pay for crap. I don't know what you're talking about. This is amazing. So, tell me what you think. I appreciate everybody that's been checking out the channel. I appreciate everybody still been watching. It's your boy, DjPinHD. Much love. Let's support the working class, y'all. We can do better.